Hello and welcome to the latest edition of the Weighing Room, where as ever I'm joined by my usual team of Frankie Foster and Paul Callaghan to go through Saturday's racing on ITV from Newmarket, Goodwood and Thirsk. And this week we're also going to take a little look at the 1,000 Guineas on Sunday, with it being a classic weekend at Newmarket. Frankie, we rounded out the jump season last week with some really, really nice winners. It took us to the final day of the jump season to really, all of us put some winners together. But now we jump straight into the flat, and we've got the two first big flat races of the season. How much are you looking forward to them?
Yeah, I like this. This is kind of kicks off the flat, doesn't it? Because the jump season has officially finished. There's not that weird crossover when the flat does start. We've still got some big jumps festivals. So Punchestown is done and dusted. The Guineas is on. It will be it's a different story, as you said. We got going at the end of the jump season because you do start to really get a hold on what horses have done throughout the season and how their season's gone. It's the opposite now this weekend. It's the start of the flat season. There's lots of horses reappearing for the first time this year. There'll be all sorts of improving horses that were unexpected. So it's harder from a punting perspective, but the 2,000 and the 1,000 Guineas always makes it an exciting weekend.
Yeah, it's almost back to square one, isn't it, with flat racing, because you have a lot of horses that are having their first run. Some aren't. Some started their season, didn't they, on Lincoln weekend at Doncaster? But for majority, they'll be having their first run. So you've got to judge which yards are fit and which yards need the run. Paul, although you were a jumps jockey, you do love the flat, don't you?
Yeah, I do. I love it, James. I had 3 seasons right now with Mark Johnson in Midland. I was lucky enough to sit on a couple of decent horses now. We got Drumfire, Monterosso, of course. He went on to win the Dubai World Cup. So yeah, it's something that I really look forward to. Enjoy the big days as well. I wouldn't mind I find it fascinating to work out the kind of middle of the road bottom handicaps at Wolverhampton or Chelmsford on a Friday night. They can be the most competitive. They might be, your derbies and guineas, but they're so competitive. A bit like Dundalk, you could run the races 10 times over and have 5 or 6 different results. But yeah, this weekend kickstarts the classic weekend, as you mentioned, and yeah, this is what it's all about.
Yeah, I knew this pod wouldn't go out without Dundalk being mentioned, so it had to be,
Got
didn't
it
it?
early.
Yeah, really early, actually. Usually it's a bit later, isn't it? But anyway, we'll move on and we'll get started with this week's pod. And we're going to start at Newmarket in the 215, listed the Howden British EBF Ellen Challoner Stakes over 6 furlongs. And this event, Frankie, sees a lot of familiar sprinters from last season coming back who are in the handicap sphere that are also could be bumped up to listed company. And at the top of the market, we've got Azure Blue at 9-2 for Michael Dodds. And Michael Dodds also has the joint favourite, Gale Force Mayer at 9-2, Perdika for George Bowie at 6-1, Heredia 13-2, then 9-1, bar those. A tricky one to start, Frankie, but who did you go with?
It is. I'd really have liked to have sided with George Bowie's Perdika, but Good to Firm Ground has put me off slightly. She probably will want it softer, but I do think she is quite an exciting horse, particularly at this level. I think she could be better than this level, but Good to Firm, I'm not sure will be her bag. Queen Ollie, I think, deserves a mention. I'm sure we had put that horse up a few times last year, and she never really lived up to her original height. But again, this could be below her standards. But having not quite been too solid on them, I do think the favourite is pretty straightforward. She was last seen winning over C&D in a similar race. She's never really a star in the making last year, but did progress really well. Beat the second or joint favourite that day as well, and has won on good ground. So just ticks a lot of boxes. The trip should suit, the ground should suit, course should suit. Progressed nicely last year. I just think it's quite a solid way to start us off this week.
Yeah, Azure Blue, he's definitely solid at the top of the market, isn't she? Paul, who are you going for in this one?
Yeah, I've gone Azure Blue. 5 wins from the 11 starts. Michael Dodds does like to have his horses pretty straight at the beginning of the season. It's interesting. I'm not sure if the jockeys had much of a choice here, and that Paul Mulrennan has ridden Azure Blue on numerous occasions in the past. Connor Beasley has only sat on Azure Blue the once, so I'm not sure. If you're trying to get an edge looking at the jockey bookings, I don't think it's going to give you, much of an advantage here. I'm with Azure Blue. As Frankie mentioned, Queen Ollie, I think, is worth a mention. First time tongue tie goes on. overall has been pretty disappointing. But if you go back to a run against Matilda, is Picot and the Newmarket back in October, was only beaten a length and a half by the winner. If the tongue tie ekes out a little bit more improvement on that run, she shouldn't be far away. And Spring Feeling is worth a mention as well. I think one of the fillies made in a Tipperary back in August last year. It's interesting that Ken Condon has picked Danny Tudhope and not some of the guys from this side going over, the likes of Billy Lee or Shane Foley or what have you. He's gone for Danny Tudhope, but Spring Feeling and Queen Ollie are worth a mention at a bit of a price, but I think Azure Blue will have too much.
Yeah, 2 for Azure Blue then for Michael Dodds. And I'm going for the other Michael Dodds one, Gale Force Mayer. She's just as solid as Azure Blue. I think these both of them are going to run their races. This horse, what I like about this horse is she's new, her Newmarket record and how good she is fresh. If you look throughout her career so far, she's a 7-year-old now, so she probably isn't going to be at the peak of her capabilities, but the time to catch her is when she's fresh. She's having her 5th season now, and I think 3 or 4 of her first runs is when she's gone on to win. So the best time to catch her is at the start of the season. She's a course and distance winner as well, and she has been very experienced in the handicap ranks, going into listed company, going into Group 3 company, and coming back into handicaps and then winning them. So she's been knocking about this, going up to listed sphere and still running big races. If you look what she did on a seasonal debut last season, the Class 2 handicap, that was off a mark of 98. She's now off 106. She won that day. She then ran no race up into listed level at Newmarket. And at Haydock got back to form in a handicap of mark of 99, up to Group 3 level at York. Good third behind Flotus. We know how good sprinter Flotus is. And then over the same course and distance at York, she went into the Sky Bet Dash off a handicap mark of 104. And that race is one of the toughest to win every season. And she did go and win it. Went to Pontefract, and she was a good second in a listed race again. But back at York in September, she actually landed a listed event. So she showed she can do it at this level. In a rich vein of form at that time. She made it 2 wins on the bounce at Ayr in the Scottish Sprint Stakes off a marks of 107. And she finished out the season at Ascot when running no race in the Group 3 Bengoff Stakes. But in the listed race at Newmarket, behind some of her rivals today, she finished 4th. That was at the end of her season. She'd had a really tough season. Like I said, her record fresh is absolutely bang on. Her record at this track's not bad at all. She's just a solid sprinter for Michael Dodds. So I don't think we can go wrong with the 2 at the top of the market, yeah, because like you say, Paul, Michael Dodds does like to have his horses absolutely bang on for the start of the season. So I think both of them will run well, but I've gone for the other one, Gale Force Mayer. Right then, staying at Newmarket for their second race of the afternoon. It's the Howden Handicap over 6 furlongs, another tricky event over the sprinting distance. Paul, we'll start with you here. 7-1 leads the market. That's how tough this race is. Who are you going for?
7-1's no good to me, James. I've gone for a much bigger price now, much more of a working man's price with Equiano Springs for Tom Tate and Adam Farrar. I think currently best priced at 40-1. 6 places on offer if you shop around. Equiano Springs won a Class 4 event over course and distance last season where he had Celsius behind in second. Finished 6th in a competitive handicap at Thirsk back in August. Was only beaten about 2 3/4 lengths by the winner. Got quite worked up and ran a bit free on seasonal reappearance at Newmarket back in April. He only managed to beat 3 home. Having said that, he was only beaten 6 lengths by the winner. I think if he retains his best form, behaves himself, and runs to his best form, I think he will outrun his odds of 40-1. We spoke about this off air, and I did mention like Equiano Springs could finish mid-div, could finish 8th, 9th, 10th, and could still be only beaten maybe 4, 5, 6 lengths by the winner. But yeah, I do think Equiano Springs will outrun his odds of 40-1.
Yeah, 40-1. A huge price, and after landing an 18-1 winner last week, hopefully, double it up on the trot with a nice big price winner, course and distance winner as well. And Adam Farrager for me is a cracking claimer, still having that £3. So a big chance there. Frankie, who did you land on in this one?
I'm gonna go with Admiral D. So the other end of the market, second favourite at the time of recording. I just think he'll improve even more for his last one. He does always race towards the rear and does his best work late on. But watching that performance over course and distance last time, I think there was a lot to like about the way he finished his race, more so than probably last year. So I think hopefully he'll improve for that and could go better. And it wasn't Miles fifth either that day. And Jamie Spencer being booked probably only a positive as well for a horse that is going to be raced towards the rear. The Iceman on board and getting going late on.
Yeah, Admiral D, 8-1, is always threatened in these sort of races. So hopefully you can put it all together for yourself. I've Dutch 2 against the field here. The first one is Black Rod, 12-1. Roger Till, Ocean Murphy taking the ride. He landed this event last year off a mark of 95, beating 16 other rivals, and he looked to have a bit in hand that day. He was a smart sprinter at the back end of 2021 season, actually. It set him up perfectly for winning this race. He won twice, finishing a good, and then won twice, and then finished a good third in 24-runner Air Silver Cup. However, after that, his mark went up and he sort of lost his way. And even though he looked to have a bit in hand when winning this race, he actually probably didn't have as much as we thought. He was 7th of 26 at Royal Ascot in the Wokingham Stakes. He then ran 2 really poor races, one in the Great St. Wilfrid Handicap at Ripon, and then in the listed Garraby Stakes at York. Back this season, when obviously needing the run at Kempton, a decent Class 2 handicap over 6 furlongs, he should strip absolutely much fitter for that. Back at a track we know he performs well at, only £2 higher than his last winning mark. I just think he can go close. For Roger Till and Oisin Murphy. And Oisin Murphy taking the ride's obviously a big bonus. One at a bigger price that I thought could have a each way chance, currently 18-1 in the market, is Juan Lespins or Lepins. I don't know how you say that properly, but I've probably butchered that. But anyway, 18-1 chance for Mick Appleby with Frederick Larson taking off 3. Look, he's a slightly bigger price, but what I like about him is dropping from 7 back to 6, and 6 is what he absolutely prefers. A winner of 4 straight races from June 2022 to August 2022, seeing his handicap mark go from a mark of 70 up to 85. He then went into a better race at Doncaster, actually, in September on soft ground. He finished 7th of 13. He only finished 3.5 lengths behind the winner. But he was showing he could try and mix it with better company. Tried at 7 furlongs on his seasonal debut this term at Newmarket. Like I mentioned, it didn't work out. He's a 6 furlong horse, back in trip on Saturday, off only £1 higher than his third at Ayr. I think he should go better than last time. And at 18-1, he was 20-1 yesterday, so nibbled in a little bit with that £3 claimer on as well. Basically making him run off a mark of 90. I just thought he was interesting for Mick Appleby. So 12-1 and 18-1 plays for me in that one. Crossing over to Goodwood for their sole race on ITV on Saturday. And this is the William Hill Epic Value Handicap over 1 mile, 2 furlong. Frankie, who do you like in this one?
No one, really. So my selection, I'm not going to overtalk it and pretend I can give you some brilliant reason for backing it, bar 3 solid runs so far from Maglac, and the latest being over course and distance, over Goodwood. Sorry, I don't know whether it was over the central. I think maybe slightly. No, it was, over course and distance last time out. And one, in my opinion, easy enough, did enough that day. We'll probably still have to improve a little bit to come and win a race like this, but could just be unexposed from a handicap perspective. Just the 3 runs. I haven't seen him this year yet. Pretty well supported so far in the market, and if any more support came, that could only be a plus. So, yeah, I kind of came down on Maglock because I didn't really fancy some of these that have been around handicapping a bit longer. So I thought, let's take a chance on the unexposed horse here.
Yeah, 9-2. Charlie Hills loves having winner at Goodwood as well. So definitely got a chance. Paul, who are you going for in this one?
Well, I've gone for a man that used to love riding winners around Goodwood. I've gone for the Richie Hughes trained Aussie banker. David Probert takes the mount. All bar 2 of his 11 starts have been on the all-weather. Saying that, he does a 50% strike rate on the grass. He won a 0-75 handicap at Haydock in April of last year. He was last seen finishing second to the Johnny Murtagh train final voyage at Lingfield on Good Friday. He'll probably need to find a bit more for this run on grass. He will need to, run to his best mark and probably find a bit more to take this. But as I said, he's trained by a man who knows what it takes to win round Goodwood. He's got a lovely draw in stall 3, and he's got a top man on board in David Probert. It's Aussie banker for me.
Yeah, lovely stuff. 13-2 chance. I thought I really had one in here, and I thought I'd beat the market massively. And I woke up this morning, it's 4-1 favourite. It was 8-1 yesterday. 8-1. Honiton for Jonathan A.D. Gosden. Honestly, when I looked at this yesterday, I thought I've found one here. This could be serious value. Obviously didn't back it. Didn't think it gets smashed in as much as it has, but it's 4-1 favourite now, and I think it's probably near the right price of what it should be because this horse threatened on a few occasions to get off the mark at the start of his career. But if you look at the horses he bumped into, it's just really bad luck. He was third. He was third on his second start at Newbury behind My Prospero, who we know has gone on to be Group 1 place, win group races, listed races. Thesis was second that day, obviously went on to win at Royal Ascot. He was second at Chester behind Secret State, who went on to win at Royal Ascot. And then he was third next time out behind Eldar Eldarov, who went to win the St. Leger. So if there's not bad luck in the 3 races you've gone in, I don't know what is, but his form stacked up, obviously with many of those horses. But he then got himself off the mark. Next time out at Sandown, went absolutely bolting up by 9 lengths in a maiden stakes over 1 mile 2. Tried at Royal Ascot in the Golden Gate Stakes that was won by Mr. Cut. Look, he ran no race at all. I don't know what happened, but I'll let him off really because it was a lot of runs in quick succession. He was put away after that, but he's been dropped £1 for that run to a mark of 93. I think this horse can be better than 93. I'm annoyed it's 4-1. If it was 8-1, it was serious value. I think it's more towards the price it probably should be. Hopefully it'll drift, but I'll stick by it anyway. Honiton, I'll go for Honiton at 4-1 currently in that Goodwood race. Right, back over to Newmarket for another big fielded handicap, and this time it is the Suffolk Stakes handicap over 1 mile 1 furlong. Frankie, you can kick us off in this one. We've got Jimi Hendrix at the top of the market, 11-2, obviously a winner last time out. King of Conquest for Godolphin and Charlie Appleby, 6-1. Empire State of Mind, a horse I know you've mentioned a few times, 8-1. Majestic, 9-1. Cadillac, 10-1, and 10-1, 11-1 bar those. So I'll let you kick it off.
Going with Cadillac, top weight, top jockey on board. Come and get me if you can. George Bowe's only had this horse for a season and tried him in a listed race when third, and then a Group 3 race at Newmarket last time out. He's obviously had the horse now throughout winter. I'm hoping will be slightly better than what we saw maybe even last year. I think it's one of those horses that it's not quite up to group level, but in a race, some of these handicaps, and George Bowe, booking Ryan Moore, obviously thinks that he has his chance carrying a lot of weight to be more classier than the rest of the field. And I'm hoping so as well. So, I don't think he's a superstar. I'm going to go and be a Group 1 horse, but I think even carrying some weight could be maybe better than the field. And George Bowe in good form and had a great Guineas meeting last year. Hopefully does put a few winners together. And as I said, Ryan Moore's definitely not a negative. Nothing but a positive booking.
Yeah, Cadillac, 10-1. This was a really nice horse, actually, for Jessica Harrington, and then went to Kevin Phillip, Art de Foy. And now with George Bowe, they're not bad trainers to go to, are they?
No.
So, 10-1 could definitely have a big chance. Paul, who you siding with this one?
Sorry, James. He's probably just a horse as well that takes a bit of knowing. I remember he's a fair engine in him, Cadillac, but he's a horse I think that he can get quite worked up before his races, can't he? So I think for new connections, he's probably one that maybe takes a few weeks, if not months, just to get to know his characters and what ticks his boxes and what doesn't, So, he is an interesting runner here for the team, Bowe and Ryan Moore. The one I've gone with Empire State of Mind, who was last seen. He wasn't beaten all that far. Finished 7th in the Lincoln on a seasonal reappearance. Probably has been a little bit disappointing. There's plenty of seconds to his name. He has just the 5 victories from his 24 starts, so he has been a little bit frustrating. But I really liked his run behind Bo Pedro last time out over the 8 furlongs at Newmarket. He shaped as though he's had plenty of runs and he's only contested, I think, the 9 furlongs once in his career. That was at Hamilton. But I think if Jason Hart, the benefit of hindsight, if Jason Hart had to get another crack at Bo Pedro, I thought he may have kicked a little bit sooner. He looked a bit one pace. You thought maybe when they went into the dip, he came off the bridle, he got a little bit outpaced, and Bo Pedro was sat behind him. I know that they were drawn towards the stand side, and the stand side group definitely had the advantage over those who were drawn on the far side. But Bo Pedro was at the back of the group, and Jason Hart had a lovely position tracking the leader in the near side group, and Bo Pedro just came at one swoop and came past him. And it looked as if Empire State of Mind was going to maybe fall in a hole 2.5 furlongs out or so. But when they met the rising ground, he really dug deep and found for Jason Hart, and he ran all the way to the line. So with the benefit of hindsight, if Jason had to get another crack at that, he may have kicked a little sooner. And I think that's what happened. If he runs to that form here, I think Empire State, I'd imagine they'll make plenty of use of him. Probably kick it a little sooner than last time and see what happens. But he wears the blinkers. I'd imagine with the number of seconds to his name, he's a little bit frustrated, and he's the type that would wreck your head, because you sit and get a lead for as long as possible and finish second. You think, geez, I should have kicked. And then if you kick and he gets collared close home, you're saying, well, I should have sat for half a furlong or 50 yards more, you know. But he definitely has the form in the boot to take this, I think.
Well, they're just the fine margins on the flat, really, aren't they? When to make your move and when to kick, because you've got to know the horse that you're on. Some find loads, some don't. Some love travelling into it. But yeah, Empire State of Mind 8-1. And like you mentioned just about Cadillac being a bit buzzy, this is his first run since being a gelding. So that might just make him concentrate a little bit more. Yeah, it might do. I've gone for a different one, but literally around the similar odds. You've got Empire State of Mind 8s, Cadillac at 10s, and mine just slips in at 9-1, Majestic for Jack Channon. A horse that ran extremely well at the back end of last season, obviously for his father, Mick, who's passed it down to Jack, with some really nice place efforts over a mile. He then turned that into a winning performance on his final run of the season when taking the 28 run of Cambridgeshire Handicap over course and distance of a mark at 86. Sent to Doncaster for his first run of the 2023 season. He ran an absolute cracker off a mark of 93 to finish 4th at 22 in the Lincoln Handicap over a mile. That was on heavy ground. I don't think heavy ground's really his forte, but he ran a cracker that day. He gets better ground here, hopefully. There is a little bit of rain in the air, but I don't think it'll be the heavy that he got at Lincoln. And he runs off the same mark of 93. What he gets today is £3 claim of George Bass, taking off 3. So effectively, he raced off a mark of 90, which is only £4 higher than when winning well in that Cambridgeshire. I think he'd absolutely loves this track. And I'm happy to take a chance on him at 9-1. I think he's a huge each-way player with definitely firms offering extra places. So Majestic for me in the Suffolk Stakes. Right, we're going to go over to Thirsk, keep it in time order. And the only race of the afternoon on ITV from Thirsk is the 1540 Thirsk Hunt Cup over a mile. And every season, Paul, this is extremely tricky to find a winner in. So good luck.
Yeah, I've gone with Safe Voyage for James Sullivan and John Quinn. He will need a little bit of luck from stall 1. He does like to be dropped in. He's going to be down the rail. He likes to come late, so you'll be hoping for a fast pace and the gaps to open come the latter stages. But yeah, look, he finished well down the field on seasonal reappearance in the Lincoln. Well, I don't know whether he was the choice, but Jason Hart was on board on that occasion. He opted not to ride Empire State of Mind, who finished ahead of him. He was 4-20 in the Balmoral Handicap at Ascot, and on that run as well as his second place effort at Leopardstown on Champions Weekend, that will give him a real shout here. So I'm hoping for a bit of luck, and I've gone with Safe Voyage for John Quinn and James Sullivan.
Yeah, an absolutely superb horse with connections, hasn't he? Ran some great races over his time. Safe Voyage 9-1 in the market. Frankie, for yourself?
Bit of a price. Eileen Dub. With the claimer on board, taking a couple off. So far this season has been very, very poor. 9th, 13th on the all-weather, and then 17th of 22 in the Lincoln. But that was on heavy ground, which certainly wouldn't suit this horse. If you go back to the end of last season and you ignore the 6 furlong run, which is clearly not the right trip, it's a hat-trick of successes over a mile in handicaps, whilst going up in the weights from a mark of 79 up to 90, and still won well enough at York in that Class 2 handicap off a 90. Today goes off a 94, but £3 off a 91. You'll have to ignore the last 2 runs, but as I said, conditions didn't suit in the Lincoln, and excuse the first run of the season. I just think Eileen Dub's overpriced, at least. So yeah, an each way shot from me.
Yeah, I don't think that's the worst 16-1 chance in the world. Look, I know he hasn't run well at the start of this season, but what he did last season showed some real good form. So bounce back 16-1's a good price. my one's 10-1, and it's Symbolise for Julie Camacho. A horse who lost his way really in 2022 for Andrew Balding, and off the back of that was sold and moved to trainer Julie Camacho. Back in 2021, he had some real solid back form, finishing second at Ascot in October in a good 7 furlong handicap, and backed that up at the same track over a mile, when second behind Aldari in the Balmoral handicap off the same marker 102. He does pose a good record, Symbolise, at this track. He's run 3 times, went on his first start at the track over 7 furlongs in condition stakes. He then made his seasonal debut last term when finishing second to Muta Sarbeck in a conditions race. And he started off this season off a marker 99 at Thirsk on his 3rd run at the track. And he was a fair 4th of 7. I think that run will put him spot on. Dropped £2 for that run to a marker 97, having been running off further. I just think Symbolise, looking through the stats, looking at his handicap mark now and having a little bit of a thirst record, I thought 10-1 was enough for me to play him each way. So, yeah, Symbolise for me at Thirsk. Right then, back over to Newmarket. We see the first of the group races on the Saturday, and it's the Group 3 Palace House Stakes over 5 furlongs. A race that, again, even though we've been through some tricky ones when it comes to handicaps, this is a tricky group race to go and find the winner. At the top of the market, we have Twilight Calls, 100-30 for Henry Candy. Mannequin for John Ryan. Frankie Dettori Takes the Ride, 9-2. Equality, 11-1, Charlie Hills. Razel, 11-1. Living the Dream, 12s, and 16-1, bar those. Frankie, we'll start with you. Who caught your eye?
Fav, I think that's a very fair price on the favourite. And wouldn't be surprised if it's shorter on the day. The way this horse just progressed last year from winning the handicap and then going off favourite in this and coming 5th, but not miles behind him 5th. The favourite managed to nick a few lengths and none of them could catch him that day, but was still a decent run. And then second in the Group 2 and second at Royal Ascot in the Group 1 that Nature Strip won. Just progressed really, really nicely. Has won both times on his first start of the season. Kind of like a stepladder approach. I think that they're coming in at this level this year, and they'd have their sights set on Group 1 by the end of the season. So I think it's Twilight Calls to go and lose for me, and I really do think it's a fair price. I think this is probably the best bet so far of the weekend.
Yep, Twilight Calls 130, and I'm with you, Frankie. I think it's the first time we might have been on the same wavelength. That's how tough it is this weekend. Like you say, this horse has got all the back form. 130. It is a fairly big field, isn't it? So he has got to be bang on his A game after 326 days off the track. But his form speaks for itself. A course and distance winner on his first run last term in a handicap at Newmarket up a marker 94. He's now rated 108. That's how much he's progressed. He was obviously sent into better races off the back of that over the same course and distance. Last year, he finished a good 5th behind Cardham. I thought Cardham ran a really, really good race that day, but he was actually less than 2 lengths behind the winner. Again, running in the Group 2 Temple Stakes at Haydock. That was a superb race, only beaten by a head by King's Lynn, a horse I know you like as well, Frankie. You put him up a few times, King's Lynn. And then obviously he's second in the Group 1 Kingston Stakes behind Nature Strip. That's the only form you need to see here. If he runs to that level, the 130 is an absolute mockery, isn't it? But he's been off the track for nearly a year. He has got to run his race, but his course and distance form alone is quality. So yeah, Twilight Calls was the one I picked out as well. Paul, who did you go for?
Yeah, I'm sensing nap territory here, lads. It's very sweet on this one. I'm going to roll in, which is I think he's that course and distance win last year came off the back of a 239-day layoff. So I don't think fitness is going to be an issue. He's best price 16-1 to go one better this year in the King's Stand. And to justify that, I think he'd want to be winning this. So I think Twilight Calls will take the beat.
Yeah, lovely stuff. We're all going for Twilight Calls, so hopefully he can do the business. Right then, the feature race on the Newmarket card on Saturday is the first classic event of the flat season. It's the Group 1 Kitco 2,000 Guineas. And what a race we have. 14 runners going to post. August Rodin 7-4 at the top of the market. If that rain comes, he will absolutely lap it up. Little Big Bear Will he stay the mile? 11-2. Chaldean, obviously not an ideal prep run, but still ran a fairly decent race with no jockey on the back. At 7-1. Royal Scotsman, I think, has been under talk so far at 17-2. Had a really good season last season. Sakir 17-2, who needs to stay as well, and then 12-1 Barlow with Silver Knot. Paul, we'll let you start. Talk us through the one that caught your eye, or a few that you think could run well.
Yeah, well, I suppose as the market suggests, Aidan O'Brien is the aces here with August Roden and Little Big Bear. I've gone with Chaldean. I think tactically this is going to be fascinating because the top two are drawn beside each other in stalls in numbers 12 and 13, where Chaldean is over the other side in stall 3. So who's Frankie going to track and what have you? Like, there's nothing. Like, the next one down, Royal Scotsman is in 11. Sakir is in 10. Like, you have to go to Silver Knot, who's a best price 12-1 chance, who's drawn in stall 7, and Holloway Boy in 5. So who is Frankie going to track to take him into the race? You know, he's going to have to keep an eye on the top two, August Roden and Little Big Bear. So that's going to be fascinating for me. It's a race last about, I think, that Frankie's going to want to forget. Not his finest hour. You know, I think the horse, I don't think it will have done the horse any harm. He's obviously not an ideal prep for Connections, but, you know, he's a Dewhurst winner. It was unfortunate what happened last time out, but saying that, he does have the benefit of going to the races. That would have taken something out of it, and hopefully Connections would have done a gallop and what have you in between. So that would have left him as spot on as Connections can have him. And I think Chaldean can right the wrongs here. And I think Frankie's going to be on his A game. This is his last 2,000 guineas, so he's going to be wanting throwing everything at this.
Yeah, Chaldean 7-1. You obviously have got to forgive that, but he wasn't really much of the horse's fault. And I know it's very hard to tell because you didn't have a jockey on the back, and it was pretty much soft, heavy ground. But he ran all the way to the line. Andrew Baldwin reported that he came out the race really well. So it wasn't ideal prep, but you still got to saw him on a racetrack, and he was still fit and healthy. For you, Frankie, look, I think this is a serious race. I know we say that every year with this 2,000 guineas, but it's fascinating, like you say, tactically, Paul, from what's going to happen. But I think it's fascinating that you've got in here horses that were unbelievable over 6-7 furlongs, that you just don't know whether they'll get the mile. And if they do, it could be just a great race.
Absolutely. No, it is. It's set to be a cracker.
Yeah. Frankie, who sided with then?
Where's my money? I guess that's the question, isn't it? Because, I mean, you could talk through the top, like, 5 or 6 in here, and they've all obviously got strong claims, or you can even go further down the field, to be honest. The two performances that stick in my mind most last year was Little Big Bears at the Curragh and Sakir's at Newmarket. They were the two, if I look at the field, that I remember most strongly thinking, wow, that was a serious performance. Little Big Bear obviously has the biggest question trip-wise. I've always kind of seen him as a bit more of a speedster. Sakir I do like, and I think does deserve an each way chance. Just the way that he relaxes, I think is really nice as he runs his race, and that should suit over the mile. But I'm in the same boat. Chaldean, I think I'd kick myself if Chaldean won. He's just been the talking horse over here. You know, we've got Aidan's to go up against, and seems to be our strongest chance. Everybody's been saying it for a long time. This horse could win the Guineas. This horse could win the Guineas. And he did nothing wrong last year. Obviously unseated at the start, but provided he came out of that race fine, which he seems to have. As you said, he did run all the way to the line. It's a bit of work without a jockey on board. Is it the worst thing in the world? I don't know. And you're probably getting a bit of a better price because of it. So I think 7-1 for, in my opinion, what is at least talked about and has shown no reason why he's not the best on English soil. I will have an each way bet at Chaldean, a very small each bet on Sakir, and I'll be excited to see what Little Big Bear does, but won't take any of my money.
Lovely stuff then. A few at the prices. Oh, I found this very tough. Because, like you said, there's some seriously good horses here. But I am a huge August Rodan fan. Absolutely huge. If you look at the record of the Virtum Futurity from obviously last season, but from seasons gone by and horses that have come into the Guineas, this race has really been the one you need to focus on with horses coming to the Guineas. Obviously, August Rodan's favourite in this race won it last year. You had Kamiko that won that and went on to win here. I think Luxembourg came onto the Guineas, ran a cracker, and obviously won that race as well. So that's the race you need to look at. August Rodin absolutely bolts up in that, didn't he? What he's done throughout his career, I know obviously Aidan O'Brien has his press meetings at the start of the season, and he thinks this horse can seriously go on under the Triple Crown. If he's that good, look, I hope we can see it, because it'd be great to see. But I do think this horse will probably want further in time, and if the rain does come, that will put it into stamina. So he won't mind the rain coming at all, and I think his price suggests that, because he has been backed in. But looking back at what he did last season, obviously he was a bit humbled on his start. I think they probably thought he was going to win. He was second that day to Crypto Force. Crypto Force isn't a bad horse at all, but his pedigree, obviously he's related to multiple Group 1 winner Magical, who we know stays a little bit further. He's been seen 3 more times since then, landed a maiden at Naas in July, and then went to Leopardstown in the Group 2 Champions Juvenile Stakes, and obviously landed the Version Futurity by close to 4 lengths. Look, 7-4 is skinny. I know that in a field that's got so much potential. But I just think he could be better than them all. So maybe not from a price perspective, just from a perspective that I think this horse is seriously special. I'm going to stick with August Rodin. I think he does win this race. But Frankie, I'm with you from an each way market. Oh, look, I wouldn't want the rain for this horse. I wouldn't want too much rain at all. Where I probably would for August Rodin, I probably wouldn't want too much for this horse. But I was very visually impressed with Sakir last season. And he's a bigger price at 17-2 compared to August Rodin. But he's a bigger price, but it's riskier, because we don't know whether this horse stays. But the thing he has got on his side is his pedigree suggests that he will stay. If you look down his pedigree, he's a son of Zoffany, who raced over a mile even further. If you look at his dam sire racing over a mile as well, it was a £550,000, £550,000 purchase. So they obviously know how good this horse is. Roger Varian's done a lot of features this week talking about, will he stay? They think he relaxes that much that he will stay, but they don't want the soft ground. If you look throughout what he did, obviously you mentioned, Frankie, that run in the Group 2 Mill Reef was so impressive. He has got absolutely bundles of pace. We'll find out in this race whether he wants to go for the Commonwealth Cup or something like that, over 6 furlongs and not go up to the mile. But I just think off his pedigree, if he can show the pace and travel into the race beautifully and just pull away at the end with the pace he's shown last season, I think he can give some of the Irish big guns at the top of the market a right race. So I'm going Sakir each way, 17-2, but August Rodin to win it and hopefully go on and land the Triple Crown. Right then, that's all of Saturday's ITV races covered, but we couldn't leave today without delving into the second classic of the season, could we? The Group 1 Kipco 1,000 Guineas Stakes on the Sunday from Newmarket. Look, we are recording Friday morning, so we don't know the official decks for this race, but we're going to have a little go anyway from what the anti-post prices currently are. And at the top of the market, we have Tahira 5-2 for Dermot Weld. This horse has been talked about as going for this race, but as knowing Dermot Weld, he can send this to the Irish, the French. So you've got to take it that he does send her here. Meditate 9-2. Mama's Girl 6-1 for Richard Hannon. Remarquee, a horse you napped a few weeks ago, Frankie, 7-1. Dream of Love 8-1. Maud 14-1. Lazoo 16-1. 25-1. Bar those. Paul, I'll let you start.
Yeah, it could be.
Who are you going for?
Just might be silly to look elsewhere than the favourite, Dermot Weld. If he does turn up here, 5-2 could look a huge price come Sunday afternoon. She was a good winner of a Group 1 contest, the Meidler Stud Stakes at the Curragh when last seen. You know, she's taught a lot of, and rightly so. The second Mediate went on and was second in Cheveley Park, and then went on and won the Juvenile Cup, the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf at Keeneland. So Tahira could be, the 5-2 could look a massive price come Sunday afternoon. The one I've gone with is the one who's had the benefit of a winning season reappearance in the Richard Hannon trained Mama's Girl. She's a perfect 2 from 2 as well. I was quite taken by a performance in the Nell Gwyn. Having been slow away, she made up the ground pretty impressively and found herself competitive around halfway. She's pretty good. I think the 8 furlongs will suit, and she represents a top team in Amo Racing, Richard Hannon and Kevin Stott. It's Mama's Girl for me.
Yeah, Mama's Girl 6-1, highly impressive on a seasonal reappearance, so she could run a really big race. Frankie, who did you come down on?
Same boat. Well, I thought it was, and then Paul changed his mind and went for a bit of a nice price. But yeah, I can't get away from the favourite. I think 5-2 is a great price. I know that doesn't help listeners that are going to maybe shorten up by the time we get there. But yeah, Tahira, that again, like these 2,000 and 1,000 guineas, that I always think back to last season and which performances really stuck out in my mind, and what comments have come after that. And from me, Tahira, and the way that Don't Want spoke about this horse, he thinks she is very, very good. And yeah, I think she's the right favourite. As Paul mentioned, Mama's Girl absolutely flew home recently. Quite exciting. Remarquee was better than we thought she saw last year, and proved that. I think Rob Hornby said he was smiling all the way home after working on her earlier in the week. But favourite's too good for me. I think so impressive at the Curragh, and at that price, I'd be backing her all day. Down to 2-1, if not shorter.
Yep, Tahira for me as well. Like you said, what she did last season visually, that was it was breathtaking, wasn't it? The way she put away Meditate, and we all thought Meditate was the one that there was going to be Aidan O'Brien's. And look, Meditate's not a bad horse at all, but just Tahira looks to be better. A star was officially born after that performance. I hope she goes here. I know Dermot Weld hasn't. He said she will end up here, and I'm hoping she does, because I just think she could be the filly of the season. I really do. I think she's the one to watch. I know Dermot Well's form isn't the greatest at all. He does hit patches where he can't find a winner, but I think she's the one to probably get him out the rut. So Tahira currently 5-2 could be a crazy price, because I think she's absolutely top class. But one at an each way price is it currently 14-1 in the market? Yeah, Morge with Oisin Murphy in the saddle for Sire Bin Saror. This horse could really outrun her odds. She's got some really impressive juvenile form, stepping up to a mile this season and looking even better for the trip. A winner on debut at Newmarket over 6 furlongs last season, beating the talented Believing for George Bowie. Obviously, Believing's already come out this season and won again. She then went to Royal Ascot and finished a good second behind Meditate in the Group 3 Albany Stakes, which is obviously we know was a good performance. Morge got back to winning ways next time out on the July course in the Group 2 Duchess of Cambridge Stakes. She beat Lazoo that day. Obviously, we know what Lazoo's probably gone on to beat Morge and frank the form. But I don't think Morge is a sprinter. And I think she was mixing it with some top level sprinters at that level, and she wants further. She finished the season off with a credible 4 for 13 in the Group 2 Sky Bet Lowther Stakes at York. And then obviously, like I mentioned, a solid third behind Lazoo and Meditate, with the winner reversing the form in the Group 1 Cheveley Park Stakes. This season, what it's all been about building her up. She was put away after that. She returned at Maidan in January, up to 7 furlongs in the Jumeirah Fillies Classic. She went on to beat the credible Dream Love, who Dream Love's actually 8-1. Morge is 14-1 in this market. So I can't understand that, me being basically nearly double the price. Morge came back out at next time out, at Maidan again, and she absolutely bolted up by close to 9 lengths over a mile. Beat Fairy Cross that day. We know Fairy Cross obviously came out, was second in the Nell Gwyn at Newmarket. I think the form stacks up for this horse. We know she wants a mile now. So at 14-1 with Oisin Murphy in the saddle, I thought she was a very good alternative to the favourite from an each way perspective. Lads, that's it then. 8 races covered. A lot of bigger prices than probably what we normally have, but that's the racing that we've got on offer this weekend. Newmarket, Goodwood Thirsk across Saturday and Sunday all covered. Now it's just time for the naps. And last week we managed to get 2 out of the 3, and hopefully this week, even though it's tougher, we can try and land 3 out of 3. Paul landed John Bon, easy as you like, 5-4. Myself with Alma Beer over at Leicester. But Paul, we'll let you start this weekend as you had a winner last week.
Yeah, well, I'm thinking Schuldine might be on the premises of Nap territory. Who else was it? There was one other one there that we had napped as well. Twilight Calls. I think he's odds on to get a nap here from someone. But that's like, I think fortune favours the brave, and I think Equiano springs for the place. He's 40-1 to win. there's most firms going 6 places. There's a couple going 6 places at 40-1, which is what, a 7-1 place if he manages to finish in the first 6. There's one firm going 33-1, which is a bit better than 5-1 for the place. Seven places, sorry, on offer with the firm going 33s. So that's a bit better than 5-1 for the place. So Equiano Springs to fill the placings in the 250 at Newmarket on Saturday.
Lovely stuff. 40-1 chance. Nap material as always. Frankie, who are you going for?
Can I have a nap double? We'll make up for last week. I think Twilight Calls and Tahira. I think they're both decent prices because they're in big fields and very competitive races. But I just think they are the best horses in the race. And if nothing goes wrong and they run their true race, I think they'll both be hard to stop. So Twilight Calls in the 4 o'clock on the Saturday and Tahira in the 1,000 on the Sunday.
Lovely stuff. We'll have to try and find out the price of that. What, 5-2 and 30. So quite a nice double there. Look, I do like Twilight Calls, but Frankie, I'll let you have him. I'm going to go for one at a bigger price each way. Should be able to get some extra places. Majestic for Jack Channing in the Suffolk Stakes. Like I mentioned, he won that 28 runner Cambridgeshire handicap at a mark of 86. He's only effectively £4 higher in this race, getting better ground than the Lincoln when running a cracker. I think this could be his day again. So Majestic at 9-1 for me, for my nap this weekend. Try and make it 2 out of 2. Lads, thank you as always for your selections. We are well and truly all about the flap now with the jump season behind us. Hopefully we can find some more winners to match last week, where we had a superb weekend. Please be sure to like this video, comment your selections or nap or cross this week, and who you fancy in the first 2 classic races of the season, and be sure to subscribe to the Winners Enclosure channel. All the best wherever you are back in this weekend, and thanks for watching.